Some pretty incredible breaking news coming out in the last 24 hours that Russian President Vladimir Putin is now warning the United States directly of a Cold War style crisis if missiles are deployed to Germany. Now, we actually saw this happen yesterday. I shared it with you on other platforms. There's video footage of this announcement, and I'm surprised that it is not being spread more widely across U.S. media outlets. Russian leader threatens to relaunch production of intermediate range nuclear weapons if the United States deploys missiles to Germany. Now, we had heard that the United States would be sending these to Germany. Russia very upset about this, saying that it is putting them within attacking distance within 10 minutes, that if Germany were to launch missiles towards Russia, that it would only take 10 minutes before they were hit. Russia saying this is a direct threat against them, and they are actually saying that they're going to be mirroring any measurements that are taken. So they're saying that anything that the United States is doing, Russia feels it has the right to then respond with the exact same measure. So they're saying that they're going to be positioning things specifically against the United States for what is going on. And they're giving this warning of a Cold War style crisis starting up here as we enter into 2024. Now, this comes as just over the weekend as well. I let you guys know that Russia and China are potentially sliding us into World War III. Headlines coming out over the weekend, a lot saying about World War III. It is everywhere, coming as Donald Trump also is warning the United States that if Kamala Harris becomes the president and the current administration continues on from Biden to Kamala, that we are going to be entering into World War III. And he's asking the question, do you want Kamala Harris at the helm of the United States if we go to war with Russia, China, North Korea, Iran? He said that he will help us avoid World War III, but right now that is the direction we are heading, as this headline is saying that there is a new axis of aggression, and it is ones that I just mentioned: Russia, North Korea, China, Iran. We are hearing that those various nations are coming together, and they will be coming against the United States along with U.S. allies. Now, these are going to be linked in the description below. As always, I cite the sources for you. I'm going to be sharing with you the latest. And again, this came out yesterday. We saw this speech yesterday, Sunday, July 28th, 2024, coming out from Putin, as he said that the United States is threatening Russia with these moves. They are not happy with what's unfolding, and that tensions are going to be escalating. So I'm going to be sharing with you the latest, and I see we've got 725 people live with me in the room. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you appreciate the updates. Just helps spread this out further across the YouTube platform. Also, hit subscribe to stay up to date, and make sure you're still subscribed. I'm still getting messages. I have no idea what is going on. Still getting messages that people are saying every day they're being unsubscribed, and it is not them hitting the unsubscribe button, but they're coming and they're not subscribed. So make sure you're staying subscribed. Hit the like button. Additional resources linked for you down below. Preston Walker, thank you for the $1 super chat. I appreciate that support a ton. And also hit the join button if you would like to support the channel. Thank you for those of you that do so and become a member of the community. It is not necessary, but it is greatly appreciated. All the support. Thank you so much. And again, for those of you that do hit that join button, all of these articles will pop up in your YouTube feed after the live. I will go ahead and have that popping up for you. I'll put that in a community post. But for those of you that are not, it's okay. I still cite all the sources for you guys as well. Yeah, I see Chad Wolf saying that he has been unsubbed twice now since he first joined. Jim Younger saying I got unsubscribed. Why did they do that, Steve? Says Jim Younger. I have no idea. I am not sure what is going on here. But all I know is just make sure you're tuned in, keep hitting subscribe so that way you can make sure you're still subscribed. If it says not subscribed, I will keep you guys up to date on everything. But regardless, let's go ahead and get you caught up on the latest so that way you know exactly what is going on with the world right now, as we're hearing that tensions are rising and we are getting closer to elections, and we're going to be seeing what unfolds. We're going to see if it's going to be Kamala Harris. It looks like it's going to be her versus former President Donald Trump. And we're going to be seeing who is going to be our new president as we enter through November. Now, this article coming out, linked in the description below, came out yesterday with that speech, says that Putin warns the United States of a Cold War-style crisis if missiles are deployed to Germany. Russian leader threatens to relaunch production of the intermediate-range nuclear weapons if the United States deploys missiles to Germany. Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned the United States against deploying long-range missiles in Germany, saying Russia, in that case, would restart production of intermediate-range nuclear weapons and station similar missiles within striking distance of the West. And he is saying, why can't I do this? If the United States is sending these missiles to Ukraine to strike Russia, sending these missiles to Germany to strike Russia, Russia saying, why can't we distribute our nuclear missiles to other nations so that way they can strike the U.S.? And a lot speculating that supposedly normal, typical drill that took place where Russia sent those fleets down to Cuba, that was actually them sending over missiles to Cuba, preparing them to be in position to strike the United States from their most vulnerable point, the southern area. However, of course, Cuba and Russia, if you believe them, are saying that there was nothing out of the norm. It was just regular drills, even though we also saw those submarines going off course and going along the coast of Florida. And also, I shared with you that just last week on Wednesday, we also saw Russia and China bombers actually flying in international waters along the coast in the Bering Strait over by Alaska, causing a lot of concern. And that was what was sparking a lot of the rhetoric around World War III coming about, saying that these are aggressive moves against the United States right now with all the tensions that are taking place. Now, the U.S. on July 10th said that it would start deploying long-range missiles in Germany from 2026 as a part of the long-term military station that will include SM-6, Tomahawk cruise missiles, and developmental hypersonic weapons. Now, in a speech to sailors from Russia, China, Algeria, and India to mark the Russian Navy Day in the former imperial capital of St. Petersburg, Putin on Sunday yesterday said that the U.S. risked triggering a Cold War-style missile crisis with the move. The flight time to targets on our territory of such missiles, which in the future may be equipped with nuclear warheads, will be about 10 minutes, Putin said. So Putin is concerned with the United States sending over these missiles to Germany, saying that they have nuclear potential and they are within 10 minutes striking range of certain targets for Russia. We will take mirror measures to deploy, taking into account the actions of the United States, its satellites in Europe, and in other regions of the world as well. So Putin is thinking about every single way that we can retaliate and respond to what is going on, he said. So the United States is doing something, Russia is going to mirror it. He said he's taking all of these into consideration. And without a doubt, Russia is thinking through the process. We've actually heard that Russia has deployed that anti-satellite nuclear weapon out in space, which was very concerning to a lot of people, not just the United States, because they said that it has the capability of taking down satellites that will detect missiles being launched. So this would be the first step. If we see satellites go down from this weapon that is out in space, it would take away the ability to detect missiles coming towards the United States. And they're saying this would actually wipe out all of the satellites, not just the United States. And they said, again, that this anti-satellite device, this nuclear device out in space, is going along the same path as some of our satellites. So they're saying this would be the first step. It would take out our ability to detect incoming missiles towards the United States. And I've shared with you here on the channel the several steps. This would be several phases that would need to take place in order to cause a strike against the United States. They simply would not want to just launch a missile at us because, of course, we would shoot it down, we would retaliate, there would be outrage, but it needs to be a strategic process, and that would be step one. Now, the flight time to the target of the territory we heard was 10 minutes. We will take mirror measures to deploy, taking into account the actions of the United States, its satellites in Europe, and in other regions of the world. Now, such missiles, which can travel between 500 to 5,500 kilometers or 310 to 3,420 miles, were the subject of the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces, or the INF Treaty, signed by the U.S. and the Soviet Union back in 1987. But both Washington and Moscow withdrew from the Arms Control Treaty in 2019, each accusing the other of violations. Putin, who sent his army into Ukraine in 2022, casts the war as a part of his historic struggle with the West, which he says humiliated Russia after the Soviet Union fell in 1991 by encroaching on what he considers Moscow's sphere of influence. Ukraine and the West say that Putin is engaged in an imperial-style land grab. They have pledged to defeat Russia, which currently controls about 18% of Ukraine, including Crimea and part of the 4 regions in eastern Ukraine. Russia says the lands, once part of the Russian Empire, are now again part of Russia, and they will never be given back. Now, here's direct confrontation. Russian and U.S. diplomats say relations are worse than ever before, since even during the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. While both of the powers urge de-escalation, they are also accused of taking steps towards escalation. So right now they're saying it has never been as bad as it is right now in 2024 in history with the relations between the United States and Russia. And that is why there is so much talk about potential war coming and the United States and Russia having a severe conflict. Putin said that the U.S. had transferred Typhoon missile systems to Denmark and the Philippines. And I actually saw this in his speech yesterday. He mentioned Denmark and the Philippines. You could hear him say it in Russian, and compared the U.S. plans to the NATO decision to deploy Pershing II launchers in Western Europe in 1979. The Soviet leadership, including Germany Secretary Yuri Andropov, feared Pershing II deployments were part of the elaborate U.S.-led plan to decapitate the Soviet Union by taking out its political and military leadership. This situation is reminiscent of the events of the Cold War related to the deployment of American medium-range Pershing missiles in Europe, Putin said. The U.S. deployed U.S. Pershing ballistic missiles in West Germany in the 1980s at the height of the Cold War. U.S. missiles continued to be stationed through the reunification of Germany and into the 1990s. But following the end of the Cold War, the U.S. significantly reduced the number of missiles stationed in Europe as the threat from Moscow receded. The Kremlin had already warned in mid-July that the proposed U.S. deployment would mean that European capitals would become a target for Russian missiles. We are taking steady steps toward the Cold War. All the attributes of the Cold War with a direct confrontation are returning, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told state TV reporters. So this all just coming out in the last 24 hours that they're saying that it looks like the United States and Russia are moving closer to a Cold War style conflict, similar to what we saw before, and tensions have never been as bad as they are right now between the United States and Russia. So again, that speech coming out yesterday, I didn't share it on YouTube because of I was concerned about copyright issues because I didn't see any of the mainstream media reporting on it, which I was not sure why. However, you can see it on my Instagram. I shared it on my Instagram, my TikTok. That's SteveRam3 if you want to check it out. You can actually see the speech that was released yesterday from Vladimir Putin addressing the United States, saying that they will take mirrored measures, and this is reminiscent of the Cold War. And they are concerned with the United States sending these missiles to Germany and Russia saying they're going to be doing things back in response, putting pressure on the United States for everything they're doing. Now, also, this comes, as I just shared with you, that in the past 48 hours, we're hearing that Russia and China could begin to slide us into World War III in a new axis of aggression forming against the United States. This article says that China and Russia's decision to fly bomber planes off of the coast of the U.S. for the first time ever may signal a new axis of aggression forming that could trigger World War III. Many military experts are saying. Now, I shared this with you. I'm going to go ahead and recap it, but they're saying that Russia and China are collaborating and that these bombers flying together along the coast are acts of aggression and that they're unifying, they're strategically planning their potential attacks against the United States. Now, before I dive in, do me a favor, hit that like button if you have not yet done so. I see we've got over 1,000 people live with me in the room. If I could get 30 more likes, that would be 600. I would appreciate it. Also, make sure that you are stayed subscribed to the channel. people subscribing being unsubscribed. Make sure you subscribe, and also additional resources linked for you down in the description below. Now, this article says that Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, they could be pushing humanity closer to World War III. An expert has warned after the bomber planes were intercepted off of the coast of the United States. 2 Chinese and 2 Russian long-range bombers were tracked flying over the international waters near Alaska on Wednesday, causing U.S. and Canadian fighter jets to be scrambled in response. Beijing and Moscow confirmed on Thursday, so this was a couple days ago, that they had conducted a joint air patrol over the Bering Strait, which divides Russia and Alaska. Now, the Joint North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, insists that Chinese and Russian military activities that took place on Wednesday are not a threat. But the unprecedented action follows months of growing military ties between the two nations that have left officials in the West very concerned with this. Professor Anthony Glees, professor of politics at the University of Buckingham, told the Mirror that the frightening World War II-like axis may not be forming between Putin and Xi, and that they try to undermine NATO, and that people in the UK should be taking notice of what is going on. He said of the appearance of the bomber planes, I think that it's a very serious development. This is the first time, as far as we can tell, that Russia and China aircrafts have operated together over the Bering Sea. It is international airspace, but it was very significant because this is a joint operation, and that involves Russia and Chinese bombers. I think that will alarm many people. The bomber planes involved were with Russian Tu-95 Bears and Chinese H-6. There have been joint operations between Russians and the Chinese, such as planes scoping out territories, but the fact that they are bombers is a clear threat to NATO's northern partners, they said. Now, it's the line with what we know to be Putin's core strategy to trying to undermine NATO. Yes, we are talking about the Bering Sea. We're not talking about Ukraine or China or somewhere else in the world. We're talking about right near the United States, giving Putin the arms he desperately needs. But we are talking about the axis of aggression involving Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Now, the word axis carries clear echoes of the deadly alliance that was formed between Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan in World War II. And Mr. Glees believes that we should be learning these lessons from the 1930s in the wake of the latest development in the Bering Sea, which suggests a coming together of military strategies from hostile nations against the United States. He said that we are facing what could the outline of what could be a slide into World War III. The big difference for us is that the United Kingdom is that in 1939, we still had direct military and political interest in the Asia-Pacific area as we had an empire to defend. Now, in 2024, today, we are a European power, he said. We have to recognize that we have a really important role. And in that sense, if this were to be a new war, God forbid, it would be because of global alliances that are threatening NATO. The focus is Europe and European security in the same way it was back in 1941. The lesson that we need to learn is that we've got to be strong and contain something that can still be contained without it getting out of control. We're in a very dangerous place at the moment, and I don't think that people are sufficiently focused on the foreign policy threats at this time. There remains clear differences between the foreign policy approaches of Beijing and Moscow, however, and the expert added, I don't think that China wants to start a world war over Taiwan. China is playing a long-range game. Russia is playing a very short-range game. Putin wants to get Ukraine under his belt right now. Certainly, the 4 eastern provinces is what he's after. He's got to do it very quickly. He also urged Prime Minister Keir Starmer to take a leadership role on the global stage and said the strongest way to avoid another global conflict is to detour Putin now through decisive action to back Ukraine and to move which would help keep China at bay. So according to this article right here, they're saying that they want to help keep Russia from overtaking Ukraine because it is just the first phase of the various 4 territories that he wants to overtake, and that in order to keep NATO and Europe strong, that they need to resist Vladimir Putin. Now, at the same time, we've also heard that funding is coming from China to support Russia, and it is the funding that is coming from the United States and from NATO that is supporting Ukraine. So we had actually heard former President Donald Trump say that he would be ending the war before he was even president, that he would have this all worked out. And he got the attention of Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, the presidents of Ukraine and Russia, saying, Trump, if you have some sort of solution, please let us know now, right away. And they respected what was said. And they said they wanted to hear from former President Donald Trump how he's going to be coming up with a solution, a peace treaty. That way they could broker this and have this war come to an end. So we will see, because on one hand, we're hearing that they have got to resist Russia. They've got to continue to support Ukraine. But on the other hand, we have Trump saying he's going to be putting an end to this war. And we will see, because as I mentioned, right now we've got elections coming up, and we're going to be seeing who the next president is. If it's going to be Kamala Harris, if it's going to be Donald Trump, or if the Democrats, they end up introducing somebody else. We will see what unfolds here. But these warnings coming out in the last 24 hours directly from Vladimir Putin to the United States about the movement of missiles around the world, and Putin saying he's going to be doing mirrored measures for what the United States is doing, sending these missiles to Germany, which he said puts Russia within a 10-minute striking distance. So he's saying he's going to be positioning missiles to do the same to the United States. So absolutely incredible. Without a doubt, things are escalating. We're hearing that they want to de-escalate the situation. But as I shared with you in the last article that read in the title, that Putin warns the United States of a Cold War-style crisis if missiles were deployed to Germany. We're hearing that things have never been this bad, that the relations between the United States and Russia right now are the worst that they have ever been. And there are warnings coming out of a Cold War-style crisis between the United States and Russia. As Russia leader, Putin is threatening to relaunch production of intermediate-range nuclear weapons if the United States does this deployment of missiles to Germany. So we will see you guys. I will keep you up to date. And yes, I see somebody posting the Israeli flag in the comments. Yeah, in addition to that, we're hearing that Israel is preparing a major retaliation upon Lebanon for the attacks from Hezbollah in northern Israel, where we're hearing that there was several children that lost their lives as a result of the attack. They are saying that there is going to be retaliation. Things are going to be intensifying. And even from that as well, that unfolded just a couple days ago, we are hearing that World War III could be coming around the corner. So some pretty big news with this announcement coming out from Vladimir Putin yesterday against the United States directly. So this just came out yesterday, you guys. And again, if you want to see the actual footage of what he had to say, I shared it on my Instagram. It's at SteveRam3. So that is the latest. I will continue to keep you guys up to date on everything. And again, do me a favor, hit that like button. We've got over 1,100 people in the room. If I could get 15 more likes, we would have 850 likes. That would be awesome. Just helps spread this out further on the YouTube platform. Hit subscribe to stay up to date. I will keep you guys up to speed on everything. But that is the latest, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Resources and articles linked down below, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.